Okay, and we got Mr. G. Tom Mac, Cry Little Sister. Okay, we got Laddie in the house, Chance Michael Corbett. Who came here to see the sax man? Mr. Tim Capello. Okay, and we've got one frog brother running late, but he will be joining us. But please welcome to the stage Mr. Jameson Newlander, Alan Frog. You guys want to take a seat? There'll be a lot of mic sharing going on. Okay, so first of all, guys, is it now, there have been a few of these reunions, is it now starting to feel like 30 years?
In Vampire Con?
For me, it feels like 5 minutes. Like I feel like it was just yesterday that we shot this movie. 30 years, I can't believe it. At least we got to see each other a few times at these conventions. Except I just met Tim just a month ago. That was cool. I kind of think it feels like 30 years.
It feels like many lifetimes. It's been an incredible ride the last 10 since we started doing these conventions and meeting all you guys and really seeing, at least for me, what this movie really did in terms of impacting, moviegoers and fans. And it's unbelievable. And to see this big crowd today was incredible. Showing up, and it's just an honor to be here.
Especially when you see grandparents, right? Mothers and fathers and their kids. And when everybody starts to say, I'm gonna show it to my grandchild in 2 years. Everybody's got a different age when they're gonna show it, right?
Well, that's the interesting thing about this film because, you know, some of the stories that you guys all told me individually when we were doing the book is that, you know, it wasn't overly well received, where it didn't do the business that Warner Brothers thought it was going to do at the box office. But then when it came out on video, it transcended cinema and it kind of bled into the pop culture.
Well, Kiefer told me that at one time it was the number 7 when the DVD sales were going on. It's like number 7 of all time of all the Warner Brothers catalog, which is pretty high when you think about, Evil Weapon, Bodyguard and all that.
In 1992, it was the number 2 highest selling video for Warner Brothers behind Batman.
There you go. The sales of the soundtrack and also the downloads, the Cry Little Sister, are just astronomical. My version of it, which is the original version. And I never thought writing that song when I did it would go on to have such a life. It's amazing. And to your point, Tim, grandparents. I believe it's actually grandparents in the office, but I guess that happened over 30 years. But it's incredible just what this movie did. I go out and tour, and there's 20-somethings in my audience predominantly, and some of them never even seen the film, but they know the song. And I tell them you're missing half the game if you don't see this movie because it's what it was written for.
But one of the interesting things about the song in particular is that you didn't see a single frame of the movie when you wrote it. All you had was the script to go by.
Yeah, that's right. I was in New York. Joel Schumacher, the director, God bless him, he was a big fan of my work, and he asked if I would, got a hold of me, he asked me if I would write a theme song for the film, and I said, yeah, I'd love his work, what he'd done so far. And basically, I asked him if I could take a look at the film to get a vibe. At that point, I'd probably done about 22 movies, Fast Times at Ridgemont High, All the Right Moves, this one and that one. And I always got to take a look at the film and to get a vibe and to sort of see how the flow of the characters were working, the overall feel. But he sent me on a script because they were filming in Santa Cruz and couldn't really send me any footage of the film. It wouldn't have put together what it was. So I basically read the script, and I was reading the script, I was just like, oh my God, this is so dead cool. And I just started to write something the next morning, and just it all flowed out of me, and just before I knew it, I was at my studio in Midtown and putting the track down, and just, you know, synergy at its best, I guess. But sent it, you know, but the movie in my head wasn't anything. By the time we got to the soundstage and started putting my song in, I went, oh my God, this isn't what I thought it was going to be like. I always say that I don't think I would have written if I was just if I'd seen the film, I would have been something else. You know what I mean? And by the time, but it just happened to work. The first time I ever did that was reading the script and writing the song for a movie.
Well, maybe it also it influenced probably the finished product of the movie, right? I mean, because Joel heard it and he was like, maybe it helped focus him even more on his vision.
Well, Joel, I mean, I don't take more credit for that, but Joel always said before my voice and the song was a character itself in the film, you know, just as much as.
Chance, I think it was you who told me that when Joel got the track, he would just play it on the set constantly.
Yeah, I think it was, I remember it very clearly. It was the day we were shooting, I think it was the day that I came out of bed. It was a really big scene, and I remember he downstairs, all of a sudden the music was playing very, very loud. I don't know what it was. And, you know, Joe, bitchin', and it was, and I remember it very clearly, and we talked about it. And it was the first time that I had heard it, and I'm not sure if it was the first time Joel heard it, but his reaction was one that I'll never forget, for sure.
So, and interestingly on the music, one of the things that I loved when I was doing all the research in this is that the first song to kind of set the vibe of the Lost Boys that was kind of commandeered was I Still Believe by The Call. And I asked Joel, because The Call, I don't know if you guys know about the band, but they're Santa Cruz natives. And originally their manager asked them to be in the movie and they turned it down. And Joel said, they were such an ugly band.
Can I ask you a question? Was that because they were a Christian band? Did it have anything to do with it?
That didn't have anything to do. It was purely because they were a Santa Cruz band, and it would have made sense that they would have been playing on the boardwalk.
I mean, why they turned it down?
Oh, well, they turned it down. They just turned it down because they felt it was beneath them.
Good for you, Tim.
Their loss, Mr. Capello's gain.
You know, I just have to say that. I'll try to keep this really short, but it was such a kismet little afternoon. I was auditioning. I was on the Warner Brothers lot because I was auditioning for the Gary Busey part in Lethal Weapon. I think I got that one. But on my way, I was 5 minutes late because I heard I Still Believe. And you know when you sit in your car and you say, I can't quite leave just now. I love the song so much. And I just said, you know, wrote it down and said, I've got to get this album. And when I went in, did my audition, didn't get it, a guy just that I'd never met before comes up to me and says, I want somebody that I want you to meet. And I'd never met this guy before either. And he walked me into Joel Schumacher's office, and when I walked in, Joel had a picture of me on his desk. And I said to myself, I think I got this. And it was as simple as, hey, you want to be in a movie? And sure, why not? And that's how, there was no craziness, and it was just, it took 3 minutes.
One crazy thing I must say, Tim and I, about 2 years before we were recording in the studio in New York, we'd come in, we didn't know each other, we were working with Jerry Marotta at the time, great drummer. And we'd pass each other, and I'd hear his stuff as I was leaving. Oh, that's good. And, you know, and then it wasn't until I see him in a Tina Turner thing, I said, you know, the bloke is in the studio. And then I went, oh my, and, you know, we don't need another hero. And he did that with Tina Turner. I was just blown away, you know, just by the whole the song and then the visual aspect of it. And then when I'm watching, when we put the music into Lost Boys, I'm sitting there, Tim's scene comes on, and I'm going, oh my God, you got that bloke there. An amazing
I can't
musician.
lose this dude.
It's crazy. And so, you know, it's amazing how many things came together that way, you know, meeting people.
And you said that the actual, the recording of the song, there was no craziness involved, but that scene on the boardwalk, there was some craziness going on that night.
I want you to tell me about that.
Do you really want me to?
Well, no. I want you to tell me about Mike Chapman throwing people off the stage.
That's correct. The DOP of The Lost Boys was the legendary Michael Chapman, who shot Taxi Driver and Raging Bull for Scorsese. He was directing at that point. He made All the Right Moves with Tom Cruise. And
Yeah, I
then
worked with him on All the Right Moves.
And then he made Climb the Cave there with Daryl Hannah, which was a Warner Brothers movie and just tanked. I think it was February of '86 it came out. So Warner Brothers kind of blackballed him as a director, and so he was putting the feelers out again to get DOP work as cinematography. And he'd always wanted to make a vampire movie, and he heard about the script, and actually it was Michael's assistant that called Joel and said, I want to do this movie. And Joel just like, is he high? You know? But Michael Chapman, I guess all of you guys can agree to this, was just a no-nonsense badass on the set. And when you guys were filming the concert sequence, it got a little rowdy because these were extras that just weren't getting paid. You know, they were drinking, they were getting high, they were just being guys at a concert in 1986 on a beach.
Offering 10-year-olds joints.
There you go.
Luckily, I had Jamie Gertz there to make sure I behaved.
But anyway, the rowdier the crowd got, they started to climb on the stage. And Joel actually really loved it and wanted them to get on the stage to kind of, you know, emphasize this craziness. And then Michael Chapman came out of nowhere and started kicking them off the stage and throwing them back into the crowd. And I remember when—
They loved that too.
They loved that too. But I remember when I told you that story, you were like, that was Michael Chapman?
I knew there was some badass dude that was throwing people off the stage. I thought he was security.
There you go. It was the cinematographer of the movie.
And an amazing cinematographer
Oh, yeah.
as well. Cutting edge, that movie. I mean, you look at it compared to other films at that time, it was so well shot. And I had the privilege of working with him on All the Right Moves, and he was badass on that movie. I mean, just for the time that I came into, like, the main song of that movie. It was just crazy. I had to replace Prince's Little Red Corvette, which he wanted $1 million for, and I came in for a nice little $100,000 one. That made his budget a lot more handsome to the studio. But anyway, he's amazing, really, truly.
Well, another thing that was absolutely cutting edge was the fantastic makeup effects by V. Neal and Greg Canham, which really changed the look of the modern vampire. They, you know, because like Buffy the Vampire Slayer would go on to kind of have a similar look, and actually in the makeup field, it's referred to as the Canham brow. So whenever there's a vampire movie that has the head prosthetic, it's like, let's get a Canham brow on them. But I wanted to ask Chance and Billy, because, you know, you were relatively new to the movie business, and so when you guys were cast in this, to be thrust straight into a makeup chair and have all this stuff kind of done to you, I mean, what was that like at, you know, such an early age?
You know, it wasn't too big of a deal. I mean, you know, got cast in the movie in New York, flew out to California, met with makeup people, and I think they put us in some, you know, head molds and little air holes out of your nostrils to so you can breathe under this thing. If you were claustrophobic, it might have been tough, but it didn't bother me too much. But it was a fascinating thing just to see these great artists at work and just sort of being, you know, present to watch all this happen, but the makeup department were great. I mean, every morning we go in makeup and they set the tone for the day with their energy and their enthusiasm. And, you know, the first kind of film, they're a little nervous, but they would, you know, keep us in the right frame of mind and cool. And, you know, not a big deal. The contacts were painful torture. Glass, half glass contacts. They were definitely a little bit different.
Our second frog brother has arrived, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, Mr. Feldman, how you doing? Chance, I wanted to ask you because I think I was talking to Jameson, and he speculated, like he put it in my head that perhaps you didn't wear the makeup. And I remember when I spoke to you the first time, I was like, I want to kind of get this out immediately, and I don't want to be disrespectful, but did you wear the makeup? You're like, hell yeah!
The makeup?
Yeah, I thought that your stunt guy, Larry, I thought he did some of those things. Am I giving away the trade secret?
No. I was in the makeup. The problem was that the first take we did when I came out of the bed was the only take that I was in. I was petrified. I was scared. I refused to go back into bed. And so, the actual person that you see coming out of the bed in the film is the stunt double. It's Larry. He's a grown man. It's not me. I refused that. I didn't want to go back in.
He wasn't really grown. I mean, he was a man.
Well, he was a man, but he was my size. Yeah, and
Same size as you.
I think the only part that was tough for me, it was all just fine. It was the first thing I'd ever done. Putting on makeup was awesome. You know, being a 10-year-old kid. The only part that was tough was they put us in real, like, what are those nails called?
The acrylic.
The acrylic nails, and you had to leave them on. You couldn't take them off. So I'm doing taekwondo and skateboarding and all this other fun stuff, and nails about that long. So I think that was the only tough part. Everything else was easy.
Billy, you mentioned the contact lenses, and that brings me to the classic sequence, which I think was just discomforting for everybody involved, where you guys were in the small cave, and it was wet and slimy for these guys, and it was incredibly painful for you.
Yeah, we were hoisted up by in a harness upside down, hanging when I guess Alex got staked. You know, when they were hoisting us up, the metal wires were rubbing against the wooden scaffold, and dust and particles would fly down, and they actually got in our eyes. And told us, "Hey, just one more take." But it was brutal.
Because they could only have the contact lenses for at least 15 minutes at a time before they had to take them out and anesthetize your eyes with the drops and stuff like that.
The contacts were bad enough, but when the dust and the particles got in there, it was,
Of course, Alex Winter got injured that day. He scratched his cornea.
Yeah, that was when we were, right, you remember this, Corey, we were like,
but we didn't complain. We really didn't. You know.
like he came down and they wanted his eyes open. They were like, keep your eyes open while we're like kicking dust at him. And yeah, he went to the hospital. Did you go to the hospital?
No.
I used to be
Because
so
you're
afraid.
badass.
I'd be so afraid when I'd walk by and see you guys putting those on because they look so dreadfully painful. And I just remember all of you crying. I just remember tears streaming down your face, always. And I was like, can't they make something a little more fitting for the eyeball? Because that thing goes like all the way around.
They're half glass. Now they make the soft contacts, but if they had only tried it on themselves, they might have
Been a little more.
You could only leave them in for 5 to 10 minutes because there was complete glass. Your eyes couldn't breathe, so that's why we were crying. I think when we first went in, they tried. We went to an eye doctor and they tried dye drops. They tried soft contacts. They tried a bunch of them. And this is the only one that really popped, I guess, on screen. And unfortunately, it was the most painful.
It's worth it. Was it the same guy who made the Michael Jackson contacts?
Rick Baker.
Yeah.
It wasn't Rick. They were made by a company in England who did the contact lenses on Greystoke for Rick Baker, and that's how Greg Cannon found them. But there was one story that Greg told me. He went to bat for you guys because there was a moment where you guys were hanging upside down for like 15 minutes, and that you needed to come down to have the eyes out. But Joel was like, "No, we're about to film. and you guys were up there for like 20 minutes, and Greg from that day didn't come back to the set because he didn't want to deal with Joel. But his big comeback to get back at Joel was that, and I don't know whether a lot of you guys know this, but Max's makeup at the end of the movie was based on Joel's likeness. And that was because Greg Cannon was so pissed off.
I did not know that.
There's a great picture in the book, Max looking straight at the camera, and you just look at it, that's Joel.
I did notice there was something familiar about him, but I wasn't aware if that's what it was. Yeah.
And he didn't realize until he watched the dailies of that sequence. He's standing there looking at me, he turns to V. Neal, and he's like, does that thing look like me? He knows now, it's all in there.
Good invitation, by the way.
When you've done a 7-hour interview with Joel Schumacher, his voice just becomes your own.
Hey, when I was with him in
Dudes, my dudes! I love these guys.
I started to act like him after a while.
Well, he was an interesting character on set for you guys. I mean, was he probably the sternest director that you guys had worked with at that point?
Ha! No. But he was the craziest director I worked with to that point, for me personally. Richard Donner, he is a yeller. I mean, there was a few times he made me cry. But the thing about Donner was he would roar like a lion, and then, the scared little cubs would back away into their retreated holes, and then he would feel bad, and so he'd come over and make you laugh and give you a hug. So he'd kind of take the edge off, whereas Joel was, once he was fired up, to just stay clear. Yeah. Rob Reiner had quite a temper too.
So I wanted to get back to the epic moment of the Frog Brothers, because there was a particular sequence that was very uncomfortable for you guys. And when I relayed it to Joel and mentioned, they didn't like sitting in the slime for half a day, and he went, "It was 2 hours." But no, you were there all day because obviously, you think about it. If you're
All day, how many days?
Exactly. Yeah, you're laying.
Which day are we talking about? I mean,
But all that slime, you guys can't move because of continuity.
But you got to understand something, okay? And maybe you didn't understand this in the book, so let's be clear. We were in the slime, I would say, what, a good half of the shoot?
Yeah,
Like every day, we came in and it was like, we're slime them up, slime them up, slime them up. And it wasn't just like once a day, it was like several times, because the way it worked was we were shooting multiple stages at the same time. So we'd be on one stage where we're clean, and we'd be on one stage where we're slime, and we would have to go back and forth like 4 times in the day. So it wasn't just slime them up once and then they shower. No, it was do a scene with them clean, slime them, shower them, clean them, get them reset, do that scene, then slime them up again, then get them clean again. I mean, it was like, man. So there were a few extreme days that were worse than others, such as the cave crawl, which, for me was definitely the worst day of the entire shoot. Because that's when they were just dumping this stuff in our hair, and it was just matting in there. That happened.
they had flies on the set that day too.
Yeah. And it was like 2 or 3 days, and like we're trying to crawl through these tunnels and stay our lines, and they're literally dumping asbestos and all this crap into our head. It really was. It was little broken up pieces of asbestos and foam and dirt, and just dumping it all into it. So that happened a few times. Yeah.
That was one of you mentioned the flies, that was one of my favorite stories that you guys tell in the book, because nobody told Joel Schumacher that you would not see flies on camera. But they still went ahead and released 1 million flies onto the soundstage of Warner Brothers.
And the flies got into everything but the film.
Yeah.
It's actually true.
Nobody told Joel that he just had to put on the sound effect of flies and just have the actors hit each other. And in fact, when he went on to do Falling Down with Michael Douglas, and it's a wonderful scene in the beginning where he's in the car, he's like, I've done this before, I know what I'm doing. It's like, Michael, just hit yourself. It'll make sense in the movie.
Yeah. So all that stuff, that last part of the shoot. First of all, sitting in the slime in the bathroom, that was probably the grossest day that I had on the the set because we, between takes, it was like we would do takes, and then there was, maybe I'm remembering, but I feel like there was like a thing like that deep of slime, and we were just in it.
No, not quite.
So I'm
maybe a little exaggerated. No, it was more like, okay, did anybody see the new It yet? Okay, so you know the part where like the stuff comes spewing up, the blood comes spewing up, and it's just like spraying her in the face? That's what it was. And it was like this high voltage pump that basically just shot up right from the sink, and then all around, there was like 5 different spouts on the set, and they all kind of went off like fireworks at the same time. And it wasn't just like, yeah, it was like a hose that was turned on high voltage for a good, 5 minutes?
I don't know about 5 minutes.
Yeah, because it was like they shot multiple angles right at the same time.
I guess that's right. Yeah, I don't think it was 5 minutes, but.
3.5. Anyway, point being, we were laying there and literally had to, and it did get to the point where it was definitely a couple inches deep, that we were in it, and we were laying in it, and it was cold and slimy and wet, and then when you get out of it, let's just say that it's stuck to different parts of your body that can be not a lot of fun to clean out. So.
One of the things that I wanted to talk about, 2 guys who I know are here in spirit with us, HorrorHound and Brooke McCarter, because I know that they would have absolutely adored all the attention that this movie is getting for its 30th anniversary, and rightly so. One of the great things that you mentioned in the book, Jameson, is you looking back on that time, with the phenomena that Corey's became, and just taking a step back and appreciating that you got to see that from the very, very beginning.
Yeah, like I had a front seat for the 2 Coreys being created. I mean, I don't know if you've ever thought about it in that way, but yeah, that it's like that summer we were hanging out a lot, and we were close. We were close, right? Yeah.
We still are.
Yeah. But it was just really cool because the Coreys, you see the public's perception of them, and they're movie stars to you, but to me, like, they were just sweet guys. They were really good guys. We were kids together. We like rode our bikes, and we had a great time that summer. It was cool.
It was very sad actually when we did License to Drive, and we had to hire that other guy, Michael, to play the kind of third wheel, because it was like, well, what about Jameson? He's good at that. Let's just keep this going. 2 Coreys and a Jameson.
I almost changed my name to Corey.
You say about the fact that you guys were just hanging out and you were kids on the set, and one of the things that I really wanted to do with the book was just talk about the good times and talk about the making of the movie. And one of the wonderful stories that I was told was by Joe, that was the guy who ran the comic book store. And he said that after shooting one night, he came back to the Holiday Inn and was hanging out with the production designer, Bo Welsh. And he was in the hotel room, and Bo was pouring another drink, and he just looked out the window, and he saw you guys and HorrorHound just playing in the swimming pool, being kids. So that my question to him was, what were your abiding memories of the Coreys and Jameson? And that was the story he gave me, and that was kind of like the benchmark for me to then go on. But, if anybody can beat a story better than that from Joe, I've just got a story here about what it was really like for you guys. And I think you mentioned it was kind of like summer camp.
Yeah, I mean, at that age, I was 16, and this incredible experience. It's so cool that he saw that in the pool, because that was a really iconic part of it for me. Is that we were at a hotel, and we would sneak into the pool, and it was great. Yeah.
See, now for me, I was a bit jaded because I really was going through summer camp, even though I never went to summer camp once. But I did go annually to see the summer camp, because every summer I was doing another movie with another group of kids for the summer. So it was like, Goonies were all away, and it's all of us, and then we're all staying in a hotel, and it's fun. And then I go and I do Stand By Me, and it's a new group of kids, and we're in a hotel, and we're having this fun. And then I go and do Lost Boys. So it was like every year it was another summer camp. But each group becomes, a part of your family in some way. So it's all these extended, and especially here, I come to see the reality of it when I've got, you know, my Goonies friends here on the other side, and we're doing our group shots and our panels, and then I've got all you here, and so it's like, you know, extended family. It's nice. Where's the Stand By Me guys? Oh, there they are.
Timmy, you told me a wonderful story about Corey Haim. When you finished filming your sequence, and you guys went back, and there was like a room party, and
as I said, we were just taking some pictures, and I remembered the fact that anyone that's ever done a movie, a video, shot something with their family, it takes so long, and you're so bored, and it just takes, the scene that I did, it really, from van to getting back in the van, was like 2 hours. It was the quickest. I think we did one take, maybe a part of another take to get some people in the background, and we were just, we were gone before we even started, it felt like. And we went back to Corey's room and had a party. And how old was Corey? 14. I saw something that I have never seen before or since. We were getting a little rowdy. We were playing music a little too loud. It was kind of late. And somebody called the cops. And I never met him before or since, but it will stick with me for the rest of my days, because he looked at us and said, "Watch this." And he went to the door and opened it, and the cops were standing there and they were pissed. And he charmed those cops within 7 minutes. They had their arms around him. They were his best friends. And he
That was Corey.
He did that. You know, it wasn't Eddie Haskell. It wasn't insincere. But
Hey man, whoa, what's up? You go back, right? Don't I know you? I think I know your mom's sister. What is it? Yeah.
And then we just started partying, and that was it. They never came back.
Billy,
Good representation.
Billy, I wanted to ask you a little bit about Brooke, because I know that you guys were very, very close. And I remember when you got cast on the movie, because you were on the East Coast, he was on the West. And am I right in thinking you guys had the same agent or manager? He was the West Coast long-haired guy, you were the East Coast long-haired guy.
Brooke's a Philly boy though, so he's East Coast too. But he got out. We both had the same agent, Michael Schlesinger and Pat House in New York City. And Brooke, he went out to LA maybe, I don't know, definitely before me. I don't know how many months, or maybe he was there for a year. I'm not sure. But after I got the part, my agent, I had heard about Brooke. I hadn't met him yet. My agent said, "You got to be this guy, Brooke McCarter. He's going to be in the film with you." And I was, I got on the phone with him. We talked a little bit, and I told him I was going to be out there. And when I get out there, he picked me up at the airport. First thing he did was, I'm pretty scared. I'm going to do this big Hollywood movie, and I had only done a small part in this other film called 7 Minutes in Heaven, but that was just like a couple days on a film. But this was like the big deal. And I get to the airport, Brooke picks me up with his shades and his BMW 320i convertible. He drives me up to the top of Mulholland and shows me the whole city. It was like just nightfall, and we just connected right away. And he really, just was totally, we became best friends from that moment on. And it just set the tone for our relationship and my comfort level of going into this big film. And I think he knew he was a little more hip to acting than anything else. I think part of it was he knew that that's important to have that chemistry. But I love Brooke, he's my brother, man. Both our mothers were born on the same day, June 24th. But I'm dark, he's light, whatever. But
when you guys were on set, you said that you kind of took a lot of cues from Brooke because you weren't really, you said yourself, you weren't really an actor at that point, you were just getting into the business. And there was that wonderful story you told me when you guys were on the trestle bridge, and Joel said, right before you jump off, I want you to do something.
Yeah, Brooke was all animated, he was just into character, he would do all this stuff. And Joel told me beforehand, Billy, you don't have to do anything, we'll find you, with the camera, and that kind of put me at ease, so I just relaxed and whatever. But now, I'm jumping off the bridge, he said, you gotta do something. And I'm like, I don't know what to do, and I was scared to death, and then Brooke went in. And then I just, at the last second, I just went boom, boom, yeah. To me, that was like a little bit of acting. but it worked. I liked it. But Brooke was very supportive. I think I was living with him back in LA when I was in the hotel then, but eventually I moved in with him after the movie. But yeah, having Brooke as my wingman was perfect.
The thing about Brooke, I wanted to say is that, so it was this kind of it was a little bit separate. We were the younger kids, and then, the Lost Boys were older, with the exception of Laddie over here. But, so I really got to know Brooke as we started to do conventions. It started with the 20 year. And at first I was still felt like that little kid, because I always kind of looked up to Brooke, because he just was cool. You too. And then it really took, it ends up kind of being a sad thing, because kind of just as I really started to feel comfortable with Brooke and just really hang with him is when we lost him. So it was sad, but at least I got that time with him where I got to kind of feel like we were equals and I wasn't just this little kid.
Funny, because I never felt that way with Brooke. I felt like he was the little kid and I was, no. But yeah, so I guess for me it was a different experience because Corey immediately gravitated to Brooke. I think he immediately gravitated to Jason, and Jason was like, get out of here, kid, you bother me. And then he went and gravitated to Brooke, something like that. But anyway, him and Brooke, were inseparable, and they,
He copied some of Brooke's style, too. Brooke had a real sense of style. He was into music, and then Corey was influenced by that.
They did music together, they dressed the same, they became like little twinsies, kind of. And it's true, and I think that was maybe something to do with my relationship with MJ, because it was like, I would go off and I would have my thing with MJ, and we were buds, and I dressed similar to him, and da-da-da, so I felt like he did that as a way of like, oh, I got my guy, And they had this great connection, which ended up in Brooke managing him for a while, and they did that wonderful piece of art together, me, myself, and I, which is gonna live on forever. You guys see, people remember it. But anyway, so they had a little history. Pray for the Roll Boys, right? Pray for the Roll Boys.
And G. Tom wants to talk about Brooke, but I mean, I saw Brooks. He always wanted to be a musician, and he was. He was making great music, and it was just this close to getting a big record deal, something happened or whatever. Just it's very competitive. But he finally, I saw him play with G. Tom at the Roxy one night.
Hold the mic closer.
I saw G. Tom and Brooke. Brooke started playing with G, and he was on the Sunset Strip, rocking house twice as big as this, packed, and he was living the dream. That was about 2 years ago, or so, 3 years ago, right before it passed. He was playing with G many other events, but this one time I got to see him rock. That show was amazing. But I'll let you share.
I just want to say, Brooke, I met him for the first time. In fact, I didn't meet any of these guys until years later, because I was when they did the premiere of the movie in LA, I was in England working with Robert Plant, writing for his album, and so I missed the premiere. But I met Brooke for the first time in Monster Mania in 2008, 9, whatever, and everybody. And it was and Brooke, it was really an interesting moment. He was sitting next to me. He was ever so gracious in making sure everybody was aware of who I was and what I did for the film. And then later on, he said, "Listen, I play drums." I'm going like, "Oh, really? Okay." He said, "You think we could do a little something tonight. I'm going, well, why don't we go up to my room and let's see how we do. I had no idea he was a musician. I didn't know what that meant. And, I didn't, so he comes up to the room and he starts to jam with me. I'm going, holy fuck, this guy is so good. And I mean, he was so on it, his timing, his feel. And he just had a little percussion kit with him. And so we went down that night, did a massive crowd, and we just jammed, cried, Little Sister. And it was just a moment that I'll never forget, because I just said, we need to do this more often. But he was such an intelligent, first of all, an incredibly intelligent guy, incredibly talented, not just in, I mean, he just had so many great skills and attributes as an artist, he really did. And then to Billy's point, we went on the road and did a lot of gigs together. It would just be him and me at times, and we would just kill. Some of the most enjoyable moments in my life. And the gig you're talking about, the Roxy, was right before he passed away. We did a full-on band, packed house, and it was just, yeah, it was just amazing. Yeah, we actually, it was Corey.
Well, I was going to mention this. There's some footage that somebody just posted on my Twitter, Facebook. That's actually a clip of, I wasn't there, but it's you and Billy and Corey and Brooke, and you guys are all sitting around. I think Chan.
Here.
Yeah.
I didn't even remember it, and somebody pointed out, oh, that was here.
Yeah.
I've seen that clip.
But Corey was
all
singing, and Corey was never the guy that would jump up in front of everybody. He liked to stay in the background because he was shy. But that time
we were improvising. I had done a show, and then the audience wanted me to play more here, and we just set up. It was Brooke's idea too. Why don't we just sit up in the lobby and just jam for everybody? And we did, and it was spontaneous. And Corey started to rap, which I had no idea he knew that he had those skills. And it was just mad crazy. We had a great time. Everybody, it was just synergy at its best. Just the crowd, everything. It was great. It was really a Brooke moment of like, why don't we do this?
Yeah.
And we did. I mean, and besides all of that, he became a dear friend of mine. And I can't tell you how much. There's certain times of the day, any given week, I can't believe he's physically not with us anymore. But he is terribly missed and an amazing human being.
It's always weird because I only do about one of these every 2 years or so, and when I come, I got so used to when I would do them that the gang would be you guys and Brooke, and so it's like it was so weird coming here. And it's like, oh yeah, the gang's gonna be there. It'd be great to see Brooke and Billy. Oh wait, I still have that happen. It's crazy.
Okay, we've only got a couple of minutes left, so I just wanted to wrap things up by just saying, first thing that comes into your head, 30 years later, what does the Lost Boys mean to you? Starting from you, Billy.
30 years later, you saying? For some reason, I thought you said 13. I was like, what? 30 years.
Yes, you just got a lot younger. Congratulations.
Yeah, it's just been an awesome experience. 30 years, the movie stands the test of time. It's a classic. It works on so many levels, so many themes, and music, brotherhood, family, just alienation, everything. I mean, it was an incredible movie to be part of, and it still goes on. So the journey continues. Thank you, guys.
Well, an inspiration certainly to all of us. You can clap. Give Billy a round of applause. 30 years later, well, I've created the musical, A Lost Boys Story, that goes to Broadway, and spent the last 5 years driving myself mad, trying to get it right, telling a backstory, getting all the characters to have life on the stage, and
It's gonna blow your mind. I've heard a couple of the tracks. Incredible.
anyway, thank you, Billy. And so 30 years later, I'm proud to say that I was able to pull this together with some wonderful theatrical people in New York. My producer, Evan Bergman, who's done everything from Wicked to this one and the other one. And, so yeah, we're on our way. And it's a hard, it taking a movie and making it into a musical, or even taking a book, is not easy stuff. You've got to get it right for what the fans, first of all, know it. And you've got to be able to create the humor and horror, which Lost Boys had done so well as a story. So I always go back to the first time I read that script. And 30 years later, I'm going like, I'm bloody well writing the musical, so let's get this right. And take that inspiration from the first time I read that script is what I did. So 30 years later, I'm proud of that. And I'm more than anything grateful to all of you who've been fans, and I've just, I've met a lot of you and just wonderful folks. And I'm looking forward to another 30 years.
There's one word, 30 years later, and it's, I think it's friendship. That's what this movie means to me. When I was 10 years old, I made lifelong friends with a few of these guys, and when you're lifelong friends, you couldn't talk to somebody for 20 years, and then as you see them again, it's insane. We start over again, and I hadn't seen them in 5 years, and here we are again. And, it's funny when I say friendship, it's with you guys too, because as we're doing these conventions and we go around, I see some of you that I haven't seen in 10 years, and it's friendship. So this movie, 30 years has brought a lot of people together in real ways. I met a 16-year-old girl, I believe her name was Maya today, and I've never seen somebody so excited about a movie, and she's only 16 years old. So it's impressive. It was absolutely a blast to do, and I'm absolutely proud to be sitting up here next to these gentlemen, and rest in peace, Billy and Brooke and Corey.
Well, I'm a little different than everybody else here, in that, as I said, 2 hours out of my life, went and recorded the track. It didn't mean that much to me. I was living in LA, come up to Santa Cruz, do it, and go home. And so, yeah, at the time, so much of my life was Tina Turner. I was in her band, and we never got off the road. There was just album after video after live album after, and it was so much work. And this, as I said, 2 hours, go up, come back home, have a little party. I was back home really quick, and 30 years later, it's still a big part of my life. On my table, I keep one picture of Tina. I don't sell too many of those. So, for me, sometimes you just step in it.
Tough question to narrow it down, but as I was thinking about it, I got a chance to think about it through your guys' answers. Santa Cruz, the idea, because that 3 weeks, I think I was there about 3 weeks, that was just epic. Being there for all of those amazing things that we now see in the movie, but just how it all unfolded, it was pretty amazing to be there and think back on that time.
Well, for me, it represents, I think, the theme of what Lost Boys was really about. And a lot of people either didn't catch it or didn't realize it at the time. But when you go back and you reflect on it, there's one through line in the subtext of the entire film which really transcends into the sequels. And if there were to be another sequel, it would catapult itself through that through line. And that through line, the bloodline, is the through line. And that's family. Family is the hidden context. Because family is what makes the entire film relatable. It's what makes it work. Because we can all relate to that, right? And the whole idea of it was you've got the one family, you've got the other family, and then you've got the frog family. So there's 3 families that are working, and those 3 families continue working throughout the storyline of the other 2 films. So that's it. And when you look back on our experience with one another, we formed a sort of family. And so, you know, this is our family, and like any family, some people die too young, some people live on, some people have new chapters, and some people keep going back to the same damn thing over and over and over, you know. But the point being that, you know, we all get together, we have our reunions, and it's still meaningful for all of us. So thank you all for being a part of our family for 30 years.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, please give it up to the play work. John Corlett, Victor Fellows, Jason Yolanda, and Mr. Paul Stone.